next, I kind of wanted to ask you, to maybe show like a simple example. Like sometimes, people, when they ask me, especially the riggers at the very beginning of their career, that they're just like into learning, the basics of rigging, how to
Yeah.
do IK, how to do FK and everything. And they're not even thinking about learning a programming language like Python.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I try to come up with some examples to just illustrate to them how important it is to
Sure.
know even a little bit of coding. Even knowing a little bit of programming, it can automate a lot of different things. Can you give us an example of
Sure.
uh,
So as a rigger, I think we've all done this. We all make our own little auto rigging things, because you want to write, the ultimate IK handle or the ultimate arm rig or the ultimate foot rig. And when you write this code, you want to use it in every rig that you ever did, right? So I'm no exception to this. I wrote this. There's this character I was rigging for one of my friends for his short film called Guerrero, and we had to edit this thing so many times. Along the way, I was deciding I was going to write my auto rigger so that I could press a button,
mhm,
like on my shelf, and as long as the path to the skeleton and
mhm,
like the skeleton should just be like the model and a skeleton in there. There's nothing in there, right?
mhm,
But what it would do is it would end up generating sort of something like this. So it would be the model. One half of the skeleton I would start with, so I would put the skeleton in here, and then he would give me the model like this, and then I would have to go and rig it again and
mhm.
again and again. And like I was telling you earlier, like when you start seeing repetition in what you're having to do, you want to start thinking about that again. You want to say, like, how can I improve this?
Yep.
So in this Guerrero code, you can see I'm running. So if I ran this button right here on my shelf, let's just take a look at the command it's running. You can see I'm just, oops, that's the wrong one. It's down here, Guerrero command. So you can see I'm just importing a function, a module. I'm reloading it, and I'm running this thing called do all, right? That's all
Mhm,
I'm doing. So that function is actually Guerrero do all is right here. So what I have here is I'm just simply opening the skeleton file, which contains the model. Um, and the model is lined up. So I need to save that file. So if the model is changed, I need to make sure the skeleton is placed in there properly. And if it is, if there's face shapes, that'll load in there too. So you can actually see this guy right here. This face gets loaded in and has a ton of different face shapes.
oh,
Right?
cool.
So I can load this in. So I have a whole separate system for rigging the face too. So first I'll rig a face. I'll save a file on disk. That just has clean it up, get rid of all the blend shapes and all this stuff that I don't need. Make sure all the blend shapes have proper alias names inside the one known blend shape, right, called
Mhm.
face shapes. And then I can import that guy in. And right now I'm just running return. I'm done there, but normally this is what I would run after that. I would import all of my rigging tools, and I would start running. I would align all the joints. I would rig it. I would do a gross rig, which just means just like arms, legs, IKFK, and then I'd start adding ribbons in between the arms and legs on the left and the right side.
Yep.
If there's any extras like his belt or his boobs,
Mhm.
like he has kind of fat boobs here, I had to add some extra jigglies. So that would import any extras file. If there was one defined up here as an extras file, it would bring it in. And then it would proceed to go and just rig all these things. So it would proceed to like apply scale constraints to the entire rig. So if I save this file now, it runs the general rig. So if I just run Guerrero again, run this command, it'll bring in this model we just looked at.
Mhm.
It brings in the face rig, and then it puts everything together. The one thing I don't have currently in all of this code, and that's because I just never got around to writing it, back in the day, was skin weights. Like I want to be able to like have a library of skin weights that I would load in, and then just have them played in, but loaded in. But I'm actually going to do that with Chad Vernon's skin weights tutorial that he's got on CGCircuit. So I'm actually going to add that into this code too.
That's
But
cool.
the whole thing it does is it just creates like a rig for this in it, but it doesn't put any skin cluster in it.
I see. I see.
Yeah. So next all I would have to do is apply the skin, and you would actually see it. I can actually open the final dude here for you real quick if you have 2
Mm.
seconds. Let's just make sure there's skin weights on this guy. Yeah. So this is the final rig. If I painted some really kick-ass skin weights, I would want to like store these off on, store these out.
Mhm.
And I was inspired. by the face rig. I need to use my Wacom because my mouse is killing me now. Okay, so I made little controls that would these are just operating blend shapes, you know.
Yep.
So I have like 8. I made this little cool controller that's like a stop sign that can drive 8 different
nice.
positions. So like up and down, left and right, like this.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty funky. All it is like little hidden nerve circles, like they're of a certain size, and then I just have something geo-constrained to it. So I check like the U value of like a little flattened nerve sphere and check that drives in the blend shape. It's pretty cheesy.
That's cool. So there's no joints in the face?
There are some additional joints that are like envelopes, so I can move this around if I wanted to. But yeah, most everything is simply blend shaped in here. Cool. But I wanted to add other joints in there as like a secondary. So there would actually be 2 faces, one that's driving the shape, which is driving the position of joints, which are driving the position of another shape. So
I see. Do you have like a corrective for the open jaw joint?
There is. I mean, I have an open jaw mouth, but I don't have a corrective for that.
Got it.
This was for like a quick cartoon, so I think it was just a demo for a show in Honduras.
It's looking good though.
Yeah, so it was actually pretty fun, like, you know, rigging this guy, because I got to build a lot of ribbon kind of code too. So like, you know, his chest stretches and his belly can move, like, whoom, whoom, you know, it's very toony.
Yep.
Like one of my very first tune rigs. Yeah, I even put like elbow IK in this guy. So yeah, I think it's got stretching in here. So yeah, it's got some pretty cool stuff. Like stretch, just got to turn on stretch enable, boom, like this.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So so to answer your question, whenever I found something that I had to do over and over again, I wrote a function for it. So if you actually look at like the names of all my functions here, like generate a head rig, an ear rig, a mouth rig, these are generic ones that are based off like the generic skeleton that you saw in there. But like a leg setup, like here's my code for running a leg setup. It has a bunch of arguments that I would pass in. And if I needed to, I would change those arguments.
Yep.
Guerrero. So down here, you could see like every time I wrote like a head, pass in all the arguments I need for generating a head rig on Guerrero. All the ribbon scripts are down here, like the rigging the face is down here. So all the functions are unique to Guerrero would be here, but all the generic version of it would be just in this Python.
Oh, that's awesome.
Then I can use it whenever I needed to in another function. You know, rig it for another show or whatever. So I've rigged like maybe 5 or 6 different characters for people's shorts and stuff using the same code.
Cool.
And all I have to do is basically lay out the joints and get the model and start running it and fixing little codes and stuff. So
yep, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I might ask you to give this to me. I might pay you for something like this.
Yeah. Actually, I do like you know, I have rigged it before in the past, like, you know, quick rigs, game rigs, whatever. Like you know, whatever. I've done some stuff like that on the side. So
yeah, cool. Awesome.